guys, it's Rachel. So today I'm doing a recap of my Whole30 journey. So a lot of you guys have been asking me on Instagram and on my blog about my Whole30 experience. So I wanted to share a little bit about it with you guys. So let's get started. I decided to do the Whole30 kind of on a whim. My boyfriend decided to start doing it after he had overheard some people talking about it. And when he told me he was doing it, I was really surprised. And I was like, why are you doing that? It seems crazy. It seems so hard. What's the point? I really wasn't convinced at first, but I decided to hear him out. So I purchased the book, The Whole30, A 30-Day Guide to Total Health and Food Freedom. And if you are interested in doing the Whole30, I highly recommend you guys buying this book. It's the best place to start. And while there is plenty of information online and you could 100% do the program without having read or purchased the book, I think it's so nice to just have the book, have all the info in one place. And the book also has a ton of great recipes. So you can also cook from this book. It's not just sort of the background information. So once I started to read the book, I realized that it was something I really wanted to do. In fact, the whole point of the Whole30 program is to change the way you think about food. I just figured it was a diet like any other diet, Atkins or South Beach or whatever, but really it's not actually billed as a diet. It's like a 30-day reset. So basically for 30 days, here are the things that are not allowed: dairy, grains, legumes, which is like any type of beans, chickpeas, things like that. Alcohol is not allowed during the 30 days. I'm trying to think of what else. Non-gluten grains. So basically all bread, pasta, dairy, sugar, anything is off limits for 30 days. So what do you eat? If you are an omnivore, basically you eat everything. You really are meant to eat a lot of meat, a lot of vegetables, fruits, and nuts. So it's basically that. And I was so surprised how many amazing meals I was able to make for myself on Whole30. Instead of focusing on what you can't have, I think it's much better to focus on all the delicious foods you can eat. For me, I loved having steak, I loved having burgers, of course without the bun, chicken, and I got a chance to try a lot of new recipes. So the purpose of the Whole30 is to find if there's any foods that you might have sensitivities to. The reason that all of these food groups are eliminated is in order to see if potentially you have sensitivities or allergies to foods that you might not even realize. Because we've been eating these foods since we're kids, most of us, there's a really good chance that we're eating them every day and not realizing that certain problems we might have, sensitivities, allergies, are actually linked to these foods, but because we've never went without them, we may not actually know the problems that they're causing for us. So at the end of the Whole30, there's also a 10-day reintroduction. I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about enough with the Whole30 because it's almost kind of like a Whole40, if I'm being honest. The 10 days after you finish the Whole30 are the reintroduction period, and it's during these days that you reintroduce those food groups back into your diet. So you reintroduce a food group and then you go back to Whole30 for a few days to see how that food group might affect you, if it affects your digestion, if it affects your skin, if it affects your mood. And keeping track of all that information, just writing it down, is really important. And I do recommend that throughout the Whole30 journey, you kind of journal every day or write what you eat, how you feel, and any other information that you want to include. So at the end, you can really look back on your experiences and see your results. So the last rule of the Whole30 is that you're actually not allowed to weigh yourself for 30 whole days. So again, this is not a weight loss diet. And while most people do lose some weight on the Whole30, that's really not the goal. The goal is to encourage healthier eating, to really break up with snacking and emotional eating, which is something that I really struggled with. So at the end, you can weigh yourself and see how much you weigh, but during the process, they recommend not weighing yourself. And one of the reasons I really do think is because it can make you want to stop the program, and don't stop. My biggest tip for Whole30 is just don't quit. It's only 30 days of your life. You can totally do it. So I'm gonna go through the 5 biggest things that changed in my life through this process. So number 1, and the thing people ask the most questions about, did I lose weight? I only lost 2 pounds, and that's really quite rare on the Whole30. It's not that I had a ton of weight to lose. My boyfriend, for example, lost 15 pounds. I only lost 2 pounds, but I totally changed my body composition. So that's to say that my measurements are totally different. I definitely slimmed down, toned down. I lost 3.5 inches in my hips. I lost 1.5 inches in my waist. So I'm down a dress size, and I really love the way my body looks. I don't have any bloating. Even when I was on my period, I didn't have any bloating. So my stomach is so much more flat, and that's really something that I struggled with. I love to work out, and my stomach and hips was really still my problem area. And for me, I love working out, but I was not committed to changing my diet for so long. I just really didn't buy into the fact that your diet made that much impact on your life, which is crazy. I don't know why I could not just realize that they were so intrinsically linked, but of course they are. I mean, we think about these things every day. You know, you don't want to buy cheap oil for your car, or I don't have a car, but you know what I mean? Like, you realize the things that you put into machines or into anything, it makes a difference. But I think that when it comes to the things that we eat, we don't always think twice, or at least I didn't, about the benefits or the consequences. So like I said, I lost a ton of inches, and I'm going to show you guys the before and after. Even though I didn't lose a ton of weight, I think that you can really see a difference between the two photos, and I just feel really happy with the way that I look now. The second thing is my skin. Now if you follow this channel for a long time, you might know that I have struggled with acne forever, since the beginning of this channel. And one series I did on this channel a really long time ago was actually a series on Accutane. My acne was bad enough to get prescribed Accutane when I was in my early 20s, and while Accutane really did clear up my skin, it is an extremely invasive drug. It is a drug where you have to get monthly checkups and monthly blood draws. You have to always show that you're not pregnant as a woman, because there are a ton of birth defects. And I wouldn't say it's not a safe drug, but it is a drug with a ton of side effects. And I had to be on it for over 6 months. So like I said, I went on Accutane and my skin looked great for a while. For a few years, I really had no acne. And then my skin did start to relapse. So I did start to get more and more breakouts, not as bad as before, but still pretty consistently was struggling with acne. And I was actually considering going on Accutane again, and it's just crazy to think that I was really considering it. And by doing the Whole30, my skin has entirely cleared up. I was shocked. Within the first couple of days, I had no active breakouts. My skin was like glowing, like literally glowing, and I just could not believe it. And I know it sounds crazy, so that I'm telling you, like, I could not believe it. And I'm in the reintroduction process, and I haven't quite figured out what the exact culprit was, but my guess is it's potentially dairy, sugar, or grains, or a combination of the three. So during the Whole30, I did have a few pimples. I wouldn't call them breakouts, but really small, non-cystic little pimples. So it's not to say that my acne has forever gone away, but the difference I noticed in my skin was immediate. There were so many days that I didn't feel the need to wear foundation. I just can't express to you how much the skin part of this whole experience was eye-opening and so surprising. Especially for me, my job, I'm a full-time blogger and YouTuber, so having good skin is super, super important to me. So I can't thank Whole30 enough for giving me great skin. Number 3, I learned how to cook. So this might not apply to everyone, but I, before the Whole30, like dead ass, did not know how to cook. I live in New York, and there are so many incredible restaurants around us, takeout from any amazing restaurant, and I just got into such a habit of ordering food and going out to eat and actually really enjoying that experience. So I do want to address that, because I think a lot of people who lead really active social lives that revolve around going out, eating, drinking, have a really hard time getting their minds around doing the Whole30. And that was actually the biggest reason I didn't want to do Whole30. So for my job and in my life, I travel a lot. I am constantly out and about. I'm at dinners and events all the time, and I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with the Whole30 because of my lifestyle. I will say it was difficult. It wasn't easy to say no to glasses of wine at events, and it wasn't easy to be at home all the time cooking 3 meals a day. That was a big change, and holy shit, you have to do dishes like all the time. But it was definitely worth it. I'm so glad that I went through the experience so I could learn how to cook a lot of basics. And what's great is, I didn't mention this before, but my boyfriend is a vegetarian. So for a long time, part of the reason I feel like we didn't cook was that we didn't know what we could make together. But we found these great ways to, cook together some vegetables and then have different mains. I guess a lot of times he would have sweet potato, mushrooms, and then I would have some form of protein like steak or chicken. So number 4 is that I learned really what was in my food and how bad American processed food is. So I don't think that I realized before just how bad processed food was and really what was in the food that I was eating on a daily basis. So part of the experience is you have to read the labels. When you're on Whole30, there's so many ingredients that are not allowed. Sugar, soy are just 2 that are huge and are in so many of our products. And so it was a big experience for me to go to the grocery store. I remember the first day I went to the grocery store at Whole Foods. I was there for 2 hours just walking around and looking at the labels on everything. And I couldn't believe how many just like normal foods that I thought were quote unquote healthy were full of sugar. And I actually went a little bit deeper through the Whole30, through the book, and by watching a few documentaries, and learned just how much the food industry pumps our foods with sugar, salt, soy, things like this to make them palatable, but to make them as cheap as possible to manufacture. So it's really this vicious cycle of our food industry to keep us eating their food, addicted to their food, addicted to sugar and salts, and hurting our health in the process. And it's really sad. It's something now I think about every day when I'm eating, and I take a lot of pride in understanding more and more what the food industry is and what the type of food I'm eating is from day to day. And number 5 is I was able to control my emotional eating and learn how to reduce my snacking. So this is a big part of the Whole30 philosophy and program is around emotional eating. And I find especially for women, it is so prevalent, and we suffer from emotional eating from a really early age, and it's just sort of ingrained in our head. So even when we're kids, it's like, oh, your team didn't win, so let's go get some ice cream, let's get pizza, and using food as a reward. And that's not to say I find a ton of joy in food, and that's something that I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to suddenly say, oh, I don't like food, food is only fuel. No, I love food, and now I really am learning to understand and appreciate food more and understand the best things that I can eat and still indulge and still decide for myself, is this worth it? Is this what I want to be eating? But instead of just emotionally eating, really making a decision in my head, is this something that I want to consume? Instead of feeling like I need it or I have to have it. So emotional eating, like I said, I think starts from a really early age. And I think as women, we really struggle with this vicious cycle. We put all this value on food as a reward. So something goes good, we have this food. Or actually, if something's going really, really bad, your boyfriend broke up with you, or you had a really bad day at work, we just want to come home and just eat like shit. Eat Oreos, eat ice cream, eat cookies, and have glasses and glasses of wine. And then we get to the next part, which is the guilt. A lot of times we feel this guilt for having eaten this food, and then we feel like shit because these foods make us feel like shit. And so for me, understanding that that was such a cyclical relationship that I had with food was so important, because I didn't even realize it. I didn't even think about the fact that I was placing emotional value on food. And that's really not what I want to do anymore. I want to try and find different ways to reward myself. Food doesn't have to be the only way to make yourself feel better. You can take a bath, you can go for a walk, listen to your favorite podcast, watch like really shitty guilty pleasure shows, and you can get so much joy out of those things as well. Or for me now, I love cooking. Cooking actually is a great way to relieve stress, and cooking something that's healthy and delicious makes me feel awesome, like really, really, really great. So I think that that was a huge, huge benefit for me. So those are the 5 things that I learned from my Whole30 journey. If you guys have questions, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear more from you guys, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Mwah. Bye.